Welcome to Courage on the Pitch, brought to you by Wake Orthopedics Urgent Care.
North Carolina champions again!
Here's Megan O'Keefe.
All right, everyone, welcome back to Courage on the Pitch, presented by Wake Orthopedics Urgent Care. We're just going to take a moment right now to take a deep breath, because if you're listening to the show, you're a fan of the team, fan of the sport, you're probably aware of what's transpired in these past 2 weeks with the Courage and with the NWSL. So to me, it's important that we address this. This podcast is about more than just soccer. It's about providing a platform for these incredible athletes to share their stories and their perspectives and to have a voice. So as the host, I don't want to go about things business as usual, because it's not. We're in a moment right now that is so important. This is a massive moment in the sport, in society, for women, female athletes, and just human beings across the board to be reminded that they have value and that they have a voice. So from the top, I just want to say, as a prior college soccer player myself, as someone who now works in the sport, I am so inspired and grateful to Mana, Sinead, and all of the players who came forward and so bravely shared their experiences, because by doing that, they sparked this incredibly necessary and long overdue need for a positive change within this sport. So I thank them so much. They speak on behalf of so many that feel like they don't have a voice. So while I am the host of the show, I also work in communications for the Courage, and I've had the unique opportunity to chat with some of the players, see how they're doing, and across the board, they're all still processing everything that has gone down. It's only been 2 weeks, and it was obviously massive news. And so they're still processing, and they're focusing internally on how to be there to support each other. But the way that I've been able to witness them take this moment as an opportunity to support each other, empower each other across teams, across the league, it's just so inspiring. I think many of us saw in the 6th minute of last weekend's games when all the players stopped the match, gathered together side by side in a circle, linked arms across the teams. It was just so inspiring how they showed that unity across the board. It was very emotional and very powerful. So the way these players are using their platform, it proves why these athletes are incredible, badass human beings, setting an example for young generations and pushing to make this change. Because at the end of the day, all they want is to be out on the field, doing what they love, playing. That's their outlet, then that's their passion. So I'm so inspired and grateful for how they've used their platform to spark change, not only within the sport, but also throughout society. So we will hear from Courage interim head coach very soon, Sean Nahas, who's a guest on the show. We'll hear much more about how the team is doing and how the players are doing and how this very quick transition has been for him. So I will wrap this intro up just by saying this is a moment for us as fans, listeners of the show, supporters of the sport, people who just love the sport. This is a moment for us that we need to stand with the players, protect the players, and create an environment where they all feel safe, they feel heard, respected, and valued, because that is what they deserve. And that's what all human beings deserve. So we've got to do that together as one to create a better place for these current athletes right now, as well as for future generations to come. So those are some of my thoughts as, the host of this show. But like I said before, it's important that we use this platform to continue to support the players. So without further ado, we do have a very special guest on today on the show, interim head coach Sean Nahas. And just a quick background before we jump into our conversation. Sean's been coaching for over 20 years. He's been an assistant for the Courage since 2017, and also has been the director of the North Carolina Courage Academy on the youth side. So he wears many hats. He also has experience coaching on the national level with the national team for the U20 U.S. women's national team. Said national team very many times, but it's a pretty big deal. So lots of experience coming from Sean Nahas. And he grew up in East Northport, New York. He played soccer for Northport Cow Harbor Soccer Club and Elwood John Glenn High School. He played soccer at Queens University in Charlotte, and then went on to study sports marketing at Hofstra University. So that's a little bit of background on Sean, and enough from me talking. Let's hear from our coach right after right after this break.
Courage on the pitch, off the field.
All right, we have Interim Courage head coach Sean Nahas on the show. Thanks for being with us, Sean. I know it's been almost 2 weeks now since you've taken over the job, and like we've talked about, you've had a couple moments with the media, and they've really gotten to know you as obviously a coach where your number one focus is the players. So for the podcast, we want to get to know you and your background, but I think a lot of the fans are wondering right now, how is the team doing? How are the players doing?
Yeah, I think well, first, thanks for having me. It's been a unique situation, obviously, and it's been touch and go. You know, within the first couple of days, our main focus was making sure the players were getting what they needed and they were okay, or to the best of their ability. So we were always asking them, you know, how are they? But I think to some point they also didn't want that a lot. You know, they wanted to be provided with what they needed, but then at the same time get back to the focus of what really gave them a little bit of separation from it and a little bit of peace. And I use a little bit, you know, just sort of a break from everything. They've been brilliant in training. I mean, their energy has been great. I mean, look, we have a great group of players inside the locker room, great people. I think they've rallied around each other tremendously. I think the staff has come together. I think the club has come together in many ways. And it's kind of crazy that it takes something like this to really put that focus on it. But I feel the players are okay. You know, I think mentally they're tired. And obviously now physically they're tired because of the amount of games we've had to play because of the reschedule. But look, I'm proud of the players. And as I've told them from day one, since I've taken over, it's more about getting them right and what they need than it is anything else. We've been thrown in a unique situation. You know, I don't know if they haven't had a chance to separate from it. And I don't think they will for a while. And I'll be honest with you, that's a little bit of a concern of mine from a personal well-being standpoint. And the reason I say that is because everything that's going around across the world in all the leagues with teams coming together to center circle and locking arms, that's a reminder to our players of what's going on. All the players in the league, but we're directly attached to it.
Right.
So they're handling it the best they can. But I think they're still trying to get their feelings and process it. And then at some point, hopefully they get to a point where they're a little bit more comfortable.
Right. Yeah, just a couple of the conversations I feel like I've had with players is definitely the general sense is they're still processing everything, but being able to get back out onto the field, like that's their love, that's their outlet. So having that opportunity to see them be back out there, what does that feel like for you to not only just be the coach, but be part of that experience where you're getting to witness these players obviously go through something so difficult that I don't think anyone's ever been through before, but you get to witness them using their outlet and their love of soccer to kind of work through it.
Yeah, I mean, it's been amazing for me. You know, when the club called me to ask me to take over, I automatically went straight into like defense mode, protection mode, and really trying to see, okay, what can we do to get them back to doing something that they love and not have this deter that in any way, even though it was going to be a distraction. So to watch them every day, look, we've only really trained 3 times. You know, everything's been a recovery session. So we really haven't had training sessions in the grand scheme of things. We've had off days. We had a session canceled for weather. Fields weren't. It's just been a culmination of things. And, you know, I feel bad for the players in so many different ways because it's not something that they asked for. It's not something they wanted. They've been thrown into the fire and they've had to pick up the pieces. We've had to pick up the pieces, but they've been remarkable. You know, at the end of this, however the season ends, if we as a staff and as players are able to help them get through it and get them in a direction moving forward, then I think we've done our job. If this had never happened, then I think we can be a little bit more focused on the soccer piece. But moving forward, I just feel like if we can set that platform for them to get themselves right, then we've done it. And I think we've started that to establish that within this training environment.
Yeah, I'm curious. I know it's only been 2 weeks, but has there been any moments that you've witnessed among the players, whether it's on the field or off the field, small interactions where it's clicked with you, like this moment we're in right now is bigger than soccer? I'm curious if you've seen anything where you're like, wow, this is, whether it's the way they're supporting each other, conversation, interaction. I'm just curious of you've witnessed that so far?
I'd say the first talk I had with them in the locker room, pregame against Racing Louisville, there was sort of a special moment. I'd probably say, Meg, there's probably 3 moments, to be fair.
Share them all.
Yeah,
We're here for it.
The first one, when I met with them out on the field in the first training session and sort of spoke with them about who they are and their value as people and their voices value, and not let anything deter that, not let them ever feel that their voice doesn't have power, or feel that they don't have a voice in many ways, and just sort of let them know that we as a staff support them, and we're here for them, and so on. I think that was important for them. The Racing Louisville was, I didn't know going into the locker room what I was going to say, because it was unique. It was my first time standing in front of them before a game, and the emotions of everything and being home. Yeah, I think obviously we put on a wonderful performance. And then on the opposite side, I think Houston. I think you could see we sort of hit a wall. We could see that everything had just caught up to us, and we just weren't ourselves. And I looked at them, and I wasn't surprised by it. To be honest with you, it wasn't a surprise at all, because it's to be expected, because they haven't been able to have the time to process it. So, yeah, but the biggest moment was when they locked arms at the 6-minute mark in the first game. We as a staff were, it was emotional, it was only a minute, but just the silence in the stadium, the support for the players, that was big. And it made me realize, as a coach, always worried about wins and losses. That put everything to the side burner for me for a while, because there's still people playing a sport. Mm-hmm. They're not robots playing a sport. And that was pretty massive. Yeah.
I agree. I was crying up there in the press box. That was so emotional, just to show the unity. The visual of 2 different jerseys locking arms just shows the unity amongst 2 teams. And then you see that across the league. And now you're seeing it across the ocean in other countries and leagues doing it as well. So like you've been saying, this is such a massive moment, and we just happen to be in the center of it. But it's just so incredible how these players have used their platform, whether they're speaking up or just these actions that are creating such a wave of change. It's really cool to witness, despite all the circumstances. But you mentioned briefly when the club called you that day to take over as head coach. I'm sure so much shock there, and like you said, your focus really shifted. But what were some of those initial conversations you had with yourself of what those messages were going to be to the team, and how your focus was going to shift in this new role?
Yeah, the key piece for me, obviously being in an assistant role, it's a very different dynamic than being in a head coaching role. And I had question marks about it, because I have really good relationships with the players. But my key thing was, and I had a really good conversation with Kiwi, just about the process, and I wanted to get her thoughts, and she was fantastic in the conversation. She's been fantastic throughout this whole thing with the players, myself, the staff, and as have all the players. But the key thing for me was, I don't want the role to change how I with the players. Mm-hmm. I didn't want it to be in a snap of a finger in the biggest crisis that we could possibly deal with. Have to feel like, okay, I'm a head coach now. Everything is now put to the side that we previously established. I felt like part of the support that I had with the players and the staff had with the players was because of who we were and everything that was going on prior to that. I felt like it wasn't the time, nor should it ever be the time, where that changes. Mm-hmm. And now they're back to square one again. So it was really just trying to stay steadfast in what we've established and created. And it's not easy, because they're still in a pretty vulnerable situation, and you don't want to be too hard on them in many ways, but they still want to be coached. But yeah, it was a sort of a flip of the mind, but finding that balance so that they didn't feel like what we have already established has been lost because of a situation. So, I had to make a decision in 20 minutes.
Wow.
20, 30 minutes. The club was, obviously we had a call that night, and the club was in a situation where they needed it, and I needed more than 30 minutes. So I was on the phone with a bunch of different people, just getting thoughts and ideas, and finally came to the conclusion that this is what the players needed, and felt that it was an opportunity for us to help them get through a really tough time.
Yeah. I mean, I know I've heard you say this a couple times now, but you haven't really had the chance to personally process it because your focus has just been on the players, which I'm sure they've just been so grateful for and have so needed. But to touch on a little bit of the soccer stuff, I am curious of eventually what the fans and what the players can look forward to in terms of what your coaching style is and what sort of maybe fun new things that you hope to bring to this team in terms of on the field or off the field stuff, just to give us a little peek into your coaching mind.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's as I said to the players in the first game, locker room talk was, I want to be entertained, right? When you're playing, you want to be when you're watching the game, you want to be entertained. And at the same time, there's still things you have to do. We can't make wholesale changes right now.
Mm-hmm.
We are who we are, and to come in and make changes in very minimal time probably isn't fair to the players. So we're just staying true to who we've always been. And if the time comes down the road where I continue, then we can start to implement some different ideas and different ways of doing things. Look, there's no doubt that there's been a wonderful foundation in place here from a soccer perspective. There's no doubt. I mean, the clubs had success, and you can't deny that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's always things that you can change, no matter what year, regardless of who the staff is. There's always things you can try and implement, whether that's, on the attacking side, the defending side, whatever it may be. There's always little nuances that I think each coach can take and try and add to the players, but you have to do it in a timely manner. I mean, it took forever for these teams. It took years for this team to master the formation they currently play. And going into a new year, however it may be, it's still going to take time because you're basically starting from scratch. So, I like to look. I'm an attacking person. I want everything to be on an attacking side. I think that's how the game is played. It's a possession-oriented game, and how I like to look at it. Getting everyone involved, making everyone feel a part of how the game should be played, and everyone having an individual role. Like I said, people come into the stadium to watch entertaining sport.
Yeah.
If you go watch a movie and it's boring, you leave, or you write a bad review. It's just the reality.
You pay a lot of money for it. So
yeah, exactly. So, but I always like this. People come watch athletes play as an opportunity to get away from what their daily situation is.
Yeah.
So they're paying to watch our players play, and I always feel like we have an obligation to put our best foot forward. That may not always happen, but we want our players to be confident, free flowing, not being afraid to make a mistake, trusting themselves, trusting each other. But in order to do that, making sure everyone feels they have a value in what we're trying to build moving forward, because they should all feel a part of what we're doing.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, I know I'm certainly entertained when I watch them play. They're obviously incredible on the field and off the field. But transitioning a little bit, this isn't your only job. You are also the director of the Courage Academy, as well as a coach on the youth side. You've been coaching on the youth side for, I think, almost 15 years now. So how have all of those years of coaching on the youth side helped prepare you for this moment?
Yeah. I mean, I've been coaching youth sport for over 20 years. I've been on the youth side here for about going on 18. So it's been a unique growth. I mean, when I first started, I was just coaching a couple of teams. I didn't have any aspirations to be anything. It was just see where it goes. And, here I am, but the youth foundation allows for you. What it does is you're coaching 5, 6, 7 days a week, and you're creating your own sessions, and you're able to implement your own ideas, and you're able to see what works, what doesn't work. If there's one thing that has helped, I'd definitely say over the course of the last couple of years, especially, is I'd say probably once I started with the Courage, is it allowed for me to separate the result from the development piece. I'm a big development person in terms of the sport. And I've had to grow and evolve as a coach. When you first start coaching, you're always looking at results because you want to make sure that as a young coach, people sometimes think if the team is winning, it looks good on me as a coach. And as I've evolved as a coach and as I've been in the game a lot, that has been the complete opposite. It's not about that. It's about the development of the player in terms of what can we do to help them be successful, something they love to do. No different than a school teacher. I compare a lot of things to what we do to education, and it is education. But in school, if a player is struggling in a subject, our job is to help them struggling in a certain part of the game. Our job is to help them grow in that, just like a teacher is supposed to help them in the subject. So the relationship piece, the ability to see the evolution and the growth of a player. I think that's the key thing. Look, there's gonna be plenty of players that have moved on and you lose touch with them, but there's also some of those players that you've seen grow. We put players in pro sport and playing in the league right now, have played on national teams and played in Youth World Cup. So we feel really honored the fact that we've built what we've built. But yeah, the youth game allows for me to be comfortable enough to be able to coach when I'm on the field and feel as though that's my safe place. Because on the field and off the field, I'm two different people.
Well, maybe we'll get there. We want to learn about coach off the field as well. But I mean, we can't ignore the fact that you also have coached on the international stage. So you have youth national team experience, went to the 2015 CONCACAF Championship, 2016 World Cup semis with the U20 national team. What were some, little nuggets of information or just coaching styles that you gathered from coaching on the world stage?
I mean, that was probably the biggest growth for me as a coach. Being around unbelievable coaches, being around unbelievable players, being around just the 2-year process of being in a youth national team system. There's no bigger honor in many ways. I mean, you're representing your country. So anytime you put on that gear, it's different. It hits home. But yeah, I mean, every country you play has a different way of doing it. Every country you play has a different way of playing, has a different philosophy, has a different style. So you always have to be adjusting. You always have to be studying it a little bit differently, being able to still take what they do, but make sure what we have and how do we try to negate that. The Youth World Cup was one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had as a coach. Michelle French was the head coach at the time. And she had asked me, I remember when I got the calls, I was at one of the soccer conventions and I got a call as I was getting on the escalator. I just remember that. So it was that moment. And she's like, I want you to be a part of this journey. And it was 2 years worth. And it was the most unbelievable experience, traveling the world, number one, going through the process, going through the cycle, dealing with some adversity through the cycle because of college sport and players not being released or choosing to stay in their college environment. Winning the CONCACAF championship is a big deal. You qualify through that. And beating Canada, Ashley Sanchez scoring the game-winning goal in Honduras was pretty remarkable and a wonderful feeling when we weren't there with our full team, really. But yeah, it was, then going to Papua New Guinea for the World Cup. I mean, yeah, Papua New Guinea, who would have known? But, we were there for almost 2 months, almost 8 weeks. So we went almost 3 weeks prior to prepare. We were in Australia to prepare, and then Papua New Guinea, where we lost to North Korea in the knockout stages, and then we lost to Japan in the third place game. And we lost to North Korea late in overtime. We equalized late, and then we ended up giving up one, and it was a tough one, but we were really proud of the players, and yeah, wonderful experience that I'll never forget.
Was that the same team that Carrie was on, Carrie Recaro?
No, that was I had Mal with that group, Mal Pugh.
Okay.
Yeah, Ashley Sanchez, Taylor Otto, who played for me at the time in the youth club. Mm-hmm. A lot of the players that are in the current NWSL league are players now that we had in that. Emily Ogle, Kaylee Reel, Maddie Elliston, which is Maddie Knopf now. So that whole group, a lot of those players we're playing against. So those relationships, every time you see them, you just look back and you're like, man, what a journey you've been on.
Yeah, that's so cool for you from a coaching perspective to see some of these players and having coached them.
And Casey was our goalkeeper.
Oh yeah. Okay. So yeah, just to get to see them transition from, that's not a transition. That's just incredible, playing on the national stage and NWSL college and all those things. So you've gotten to witness that whole transition, which has got to be pretty cool. But for you, I'm curious, we'll backtrack even more. You played as well growing up in Long Island. I think people can probably pick up on that with your accent, but grew up there. I know you have a brother who now who has been coaching for UNC. Is he your only sibling?
No, we have an older brother who still lives up north.
Another soccer
no,
guy? Or
no.
You guys took all the soccer?
No, he does some type of he's in the food industry.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he
Okay,
loves to
so
cook and do all that stuff. So no sport.
you guys
Karate.
are well fed when you
Karate. So we stay away.
Okay, stay away from that. But so growing up, you have a brother and you guys are playing, and then you went on to play at Queens, correct?
In
In
Charlotte.
And then did you transfer to Hofstra?
I did, yeah.
Okay. So what position did you play as a player?
Well, when I transferred to Hofstra, I stopped playing. But growing up, I was in the midfield a lot.
Okay.
Started as a center back and then just ended up in the midfield. Just liked to be on the ball. Just felt I was pretty technical and that stuff. I never really pushed myself to the point where I felt like I could have gotten to that next stage. I just one of those young mentalities where I feel like if I had the same mentality I do as a coach now and the approach, that things may have been different as a player. But yeah, I mean, growing up around this, my dad was a football coach, and I'm saying American football, not European football. And obviously always being around my brother Damon, and always just watching him and having, he and I have a wonderful relationship. We all do, but always looking up to him just as a player, and then just seeing that evolution. But I always felt that there was something more than just playing. And then once I transferred home, I just started coaching on my own. I just did like private sessions on my own, made my own business cards, and just started getting a niche into the coaching game. And ended up just getting picked up by a third-party training organization that they do up in New York. And then eventually after 9/11 came down here to work with, originally was Castle, which is now in CSU Youth. And I hadn't been around my brother for a while. My parents moved down here and felt it was time for me to make a change.
Yeah. Well, you answered my question because I was curious of when that click happened for you, that maybe you weren't going to pursue the next level as a player, but when you clicked like, okay, I think this is what I meant for, is the coaching side of it. Like, this is where I feel like I have a purpose. Was there a moment, or was it sort of like you talked about that evolution of just being involved for a while?
No, I think I was doing some, like during college, like you'd always do like private sessions and just sort of, and I always felt there was something pretty cool about it, but never really dove in.
Yeah.
Never really dove in. So at the end of the day, that was the piece, and then once I started getting a niche, and then I started coaching young teams. I had started on the boys side. I'd never coached on the girls side until like 2 years in. Even when I first came here to the youth club. So there was never really that moment. It was just, I knew I was done playing and I didn't want to leave the sport because the sport had given me a lot, even when I was younger. It's given me an unbelievable amount now, but yeah, I just never wanted to leave it. I just didn't know what the course was going to be. And then as I started to get involved in it and started to really study it a little bit more and start to be around it more, around really good coaches, around good mentors, around good people, it just took off. And you start to see the evolution. You start to see people recognizing what's going on with our club and the youth, and you just keep growing because the game is always growing. So we as coaches always have to grow. Yeah.
So even though you've grown as a coach, I'm curious, how would your players, I guess we'll say currently, how would your current players describe you as a coach?
I mean, I'm demanding, and I say that because, and I always tell my players this, the standards that you set are not because you're trying to be anything other than someone that is trying to make those players reach their full potential. Because at the younger ages, players don't know what their potential is. And as a coach, our job is to identify and say, you know what, she does this pretty well. And then 2 minutes later, she's not doing that well, but they don't connect it. So I'm standard driven. I'm on the field. I'm pretty hard in terms of not letting the level of expectations drop. And I don't think the players that I'm around want that to drop.
Yeah.
I think they want to keep a high standard, because growth to me for players individually, that allows them to feel a love of the game because they feel that they're growing and that they're learning something. But at the end of the day, I also would like to say that any player that's reached out to me because they need something, I've always gotten a response. They know that soccer is separate, regardless of how hard I am on them on the field at times. They know that if they reached out to me, that I'm there for them. And I think that's the key piece. You have to learn to separate it. And I will say that over the years, that's something I've really done. Whereas in the beginning, I always just thought about it as a sport and not anything else. So that would be the biggest thing. I would like to think that they know that I do care about them all. And there's sometimes I'll send a random message to a player that I haven't talked to in a while, just checking in on them. And hopefully that they understand and that means something to them.
That's awesome. Well, I'm sure you're already making a huge difference just in the couple weeks that you've had this role with the team. But before we wrap it up, I just have a couple, we'll call them rapid fires, but you can answer them in as many words as you want.
Okay.
But so just to get to know you a little bit off the field, what is your favorite off day activity? No soccer. I don't know if you have one of these days without any soccer, but what is doing off the field? There's
not much. I mean, I'm pretty boring in many ways in that regard. An off day for me is an off day. It's an off day.
Netflix binging? Or are you going on working out? What's that look like?
No, I'll ride a bike a lot. I don't run much anymore. My legs can't handle it. But I mean, no, I'm not a Netflix guy as much. I was during quarantine, COVID.
What shows were you binging?
The Money Heist.
Oh,
yeah.
Wait, is that the one where they rob a bank?
Yeah.
It took me 2 episodes to realize they weren't speaking English.
That's a problem, Meg. That's something you have to figure out. But the one thing I would say, I didn't watch it with subtitles. I watched it with subtitles. I didn't watch it in English because when I watched it in English, I felt like I was watching a soap opera.
The acting was terrible.
And I said, I'm sorry, but I'm just going to read the subtitles. And at least I would love to live in Spain, so it made me feel like I was in Spain.
Oh, cool. Okay, that's a good one. So off day in quarantine was some show binging.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I like to just exploring the town, just like homebody for the day.
I'm a homebody a lot. Yeah, just because I'm always on the go, and sometimes that downtime is important for me.
Yeah, probably writing up strategy. I'm sure you're doing some semblance of coaching even on your off days. But all right, after a big win, what's your go-to celebratory meal? What are you grabbing out on?
Whatever Scott gets.
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, whatever Scott has, and when we get into the locker room. No, I'm a big Italian food guy. Yeah, I'm a big Italian food. Yeah, I'm a big Italian food guy. So a nice chicken parmesan there's a good pizza place up the road from the stadium. So a good pizza every once in a while too.
Oh, well, that sounds incredible. All right. What would you be doing in life if you were not a coach, non-soccer?
I majored in sports marketing.
Okay.
Yeah, I just never, once I graduated, I never touched it. But yeah, that I would probably be in some type, I still want to be in sports.
Yeah.
But from a business side, I'd probably be on the marketing side.
Okay. I like that. And to wrap it all up, what is your advice to young and aspiring coaches?
Keep evolving, because that's what the players deserve. We as coaches are a stepping stone or a bridge for players to reach their potential. And we have to be the ones that allow them that opportunity to walk across that bridge and get to their next stage. You know, I think it's important that we show them that we care, provide them an opportunity to be at their best, and then just get out of the way. And I feel that's probably the biggest thing. If ego has to be put aside, and you have to be willing to be selfless in a way that understand what you're doing it for, and the why behind it. And then if you can get that and master that, then you're set.
Love it. Love it. Love it all. Well, thank you so much to Sean Nahas for joining us on the show. I'm sure you have like 10 other trainings to go to, so appreciate you taking the time and chatting with us. But yeah, appreciate it.
I appreciate it, Meg.
Coming up on Courage on the Pitch.
Thanks to Sean for joining us on the show. He's clearly a very busy guy, so appreciate his time to join us here on the podcast. So coming up, we will preview real quick. Our men's team will be hitting the road to play against Union Omaha this Saturday, October 16th. They kick off on ESPN Plus at 7 p.m. And a quick little shout out, this Saturday is also my dad's 60th birthday. Happy birthday, Dad. And then on Sunday, the Courage will be at home. Sunday the 17th, they play against New York, New Jersey, Gotham FC. And this will be their last regular season home game, and they kick off at 2 p.m. It will air on CBS Sports on the big TV channel, but also hope you can get your tickets, be there in person for their last regular season home game. And yeah, what an exciting episode. It's so great to have Sean here sharing all of his experiences. And thank you to you all for listening and supporting the show. So again, like, rate, subscribe the show, share with your friends, and can't wait to have you tune in next time. Bye.
Courage on the Pitch is sponsored by Wake Orthopedics Urgent Care. Courage on the Pitch with Megan O'Keefe is part of the Capital Broadcasting Podcast Network, with new shows available every Thursday on WRALSportsFan.com or wherever you get your podcasts.